Hey folks, Bearded Appliance Repair here with another one. We got a simple install video. This door here on this Whirlpool Cabrio, it won't stay open for the customer. It's driving her nuts. So we're going to replace her hinges for her today. It is a little bit of well, it's not a terrible job. It's just not the simplest thing to do, whenever it comes to replacing hinges. Usually it's a simple job, but we got quite a bit of stuff to do here. You need a T15 torque driver to get the screws off, because first thing we're going to do is get the lid actually off the hinges. You can't get the hinges out unless you get the lid off, because there's a piece that goes between the hinges and the lid that you have to remove as well, and you can't do that unless the lid's off. So usually on these, the problem is the left hand side hinge, because it's right below that bleach dispenser, and you guys know what bleach can do to metal, especially water and bleach mixed together. Getting on that metal is going to rust it. It's going to make it start making noises. I used to replace a lot of these whenever they initially came out. We had a 5-year warranty or whatever. Whenever I was working on these, when I worked for another company, they would call us saying, "Hey, my hinge is making noise. It's popping whenever I open or close the door." And it's just, those hinges get rusted up. And it's because that bleach dispenser is right above it on the left-hand side. So we are replacing both hinges today. Likely, if you're having hinge issues, you will only need to replace the left-hand side. And I will have these in the links, or I'll have links for them in the description below if y'all need them. They're links to Amazon, so if y'all use them, it does help out the channel a little bit. So we do get a little bit of commission off of them if you use those links to purchase those hinges. But anyways, that's what we're doing today, and we're going to show you how to do it start to finish. And yeah, first thing we got to do is get those 4 screws out. 2 on the left hand side, 2 on the right hand side, and I believe they're T15 torque bits. So you guys have those? Great. If not, you guys can pick them up at your local hardware store. I'm sure they have them. But once you get those screws out, that lid, you'll want to lift it off the hinges when it's in the straight up position. Because right now, you see, okay, it's not coming out. It's because the hinge on the right side has some tension. You don't want any tension on those hinges whenever you're pulling this thing off. But I mean, if you're pulling it off straight up, shouldn't have an issue whatsoever. And then these are the pieces of the hinge you got to take out. And then the ones on the left side, they are usually pretty much just stuck in there. So that's when you'll want to use, WD-40, some sort of rust buster. Let that, sit there for probably 20-30 minutes up to an hour. Because they're pretty much stuck, rusted together, and then you'll have to try and pry it out. So, but you will need to get under this. So we have these 2 clips on the front end here that you pop, and then the lid will hinge upwards so you can get to the hinges from underneath. On the left hand side, like I said, the hinge is right next to that bleach dispenser, so you'll actually have to get that bleach dispenser out of the way to actually remove that hinge on the left hand side. I mean, it's all up in the hinge is all up in the bleach dispenser's business, or vice versa, or whatever. On the right hand side, nothing to it. It's wide open. See, there's nothing there. So the right hand side's pretty easy. The left hand side, you got to move some stuff out of the way to actually remove it. It looks like, this clip came off, and this can happen whenever you guys lift up this lid. Just make sure you guys get it back on there. If you don't, it won't close as securely as it's supposed to. Especially if you work on these things for a living. You don't want that customer calling you back saying, hey, this thing's loose, it's making noise. Because they can make some vibration noises if they're not there. So, but, yeah. To get a couple of the screws off of the hinges on the top side, you will have to get this control panel off. So that's what I'm working on right now. 3 1/4-inch screws, or I believe you can use a Phillips head to loosen those up. When you loosen those up, you can pull it from the top back towards you, and that opens it up. There's a wire connection on the right hand side. You just remove that little tab, you gotta press back and it'll release the connection, and then you just set that aside. The 2 screws that hold in the top hinge are on the front left and right hand corners. If you see that black seal felt tape, it's sitting really close to the corners on the front sides. Yeah, that one there. And then the one on the opposite side. Now, your bits might not fit. You know, it's a tight spot. So the 1/4-inch drill bit driver thing I have on my drill is too fat to fit in that hole. So I have to bust out my handy dandy ratchet and 1/4-inch socket, because that'll fit properly. And then once you get it out enough, that's when you can pull out your driver like this and then finish it off the rest of the way. Mine's just a little bit too fat to fit. So if you're a DIYer, you may just have the socket set with a 1/4-inch, and that's really all you need. But those are the 2 screws on the top side. And if you're only doing the one on the left, you only need to take out that screw on the left. But I'm doing both at the same time, so I'm taking out the screw on the left and the right. But you know how I said we got to remove this bleach dispenser to get to that left hand side hinge? This is what I'm doing now. I always use a pick set for this. It's a lot easier. It's got a nice little, more than a 90-degree angle, so I can get underneath it and then pull it free on the left hand side. And then there's another tab there. And then once you get those 2 off, it comes off pretty easily. You don't really have to worry about the one on the back side, because you can lift it up and pull and she'll come out for you. Yeah, there's just some tabs that hold that cover into place. And boom, got those 2 off, cover comes out, and then you drop down the bleach dispenser. And whenever you're removing this, you do want to be careful. Those black tubes, they can crack, especially if these things are old on you, so you don't want to, stress them too much. You just want to get it out of the way enough so you can get out that last screw, so you can remove that hinge. And that last screw right here. And it also holds on the bracket that goes to the light. So when you open the door, there's a light usually, and that bracket holds on to that same screw. So whenever you're removing it, you got to remove that bracket first. I know it's a terrible angle, but your hinge will come right out just like that. And then the one on the right hand side, it's even easier. You just take that one screw off and boom, the hinge comes off. So one screw here, and that's it. Boom. Hinge off. Now, this first box, when I open it, this is the right hand side hinge. The part number that ends in 275, that's the hinge for the right hand side. And then the part that ends in 276 that's the hinge for the left hand side. So this one here is Whiskey 10305275. So this is the hinge for the right hand side. And there's guide pins. So these things line up pretty well for you. And then once you get it lined up, you can put that screw back in the bottom. And you can hold that in place until you put the lid back down to put the screw on the top hand side. So that guy's secure there. So now we're going to get the box out for the left hand side. And we're going to work that one in. And whenever we put the screw back in, we remember to put that bracket on there with it. Yeah, because these hinges here, they're not interchangeable. There's either a left-hand side one or a right-hand side one, and they don't come with both. They're separate parts. So if you want to change both, I'll have both of them linked in the description down below. But likely, you'll only need this left-hand side one, and if you do, all you're going to do is just order that left one. You don't need to get the right one if you don't really need to. But, yeah. Hinge is in there. I'm going to guide that bracket on, and I know you can't really see it, but if you guys are doing this job, I mean, it's pretty plain and simple. This is a simple job for the most part. Just a little bit of extra stuff you got to do to get that left hand hinge off. But again, be careful with those hoses. They're just plastic and they can break on you. You don't want to spring a leak whenever you're working with these, so just be careful with them. Now, yeah, to get this bleach dispenser back on, you just push it up from the underneath side, and you'll want to start it in the back, pretty much like the opposite way you took it off. You know how we took off the tabs on the left and then the right, and then the back just came off pretty easily. You want to start with that. You want to get it in on the back side first, so you don't have to press down like I'm doing here because it's just not seated down all the way. So I remove it once again, and I do find out whenever I tried pushing it down on the back side that the bleach dispenser just fell back down, so I gotta push it back up. Yeah, be careful not to drop those things either. Can cause you some trouble sometimes. If you guys work on these things for a living and you don't have yourself a little pry bar like this, save yourself a hassle and pick yourself up one. This has got me out of so many binds. That little pry bar there has saved me so much time, you have no idea. But anyways, back to the dispenser cup. I pushed it back up, secured it. I'm getting that tab in on the back side first. Once that's in, you can push it down on the other two sides, and you should be nice and flush with that top panel. And you'll know if it's nice and flush. So we just finish up with the screws here on the top end. One of these went in pretty much all the way with the drill, but the other one didn't. But it's still a good idea to hand tighten it up with a ratchet and a 1/4 inch drive. Get it nice and secure. Those things can wiggle out of there at some point and eventually start making some noises, like, little squeaking noises, or vibration noises. If you guys have been working on these, you guys know what I'm talking about. But yes, these guys here, they're left or right hand side only as well. They are stamped, and you notice that white little washer that came with it too. You want to make sure those are on there. That can prevent some scraping and more noises in the future. So make sure those white washers are there. And that one's hard to tell, but that one's got an L on it. And these guys pretty much just go into the hinge holes. And after I get this in, I'll take it back out and I'll show you the hole it's supposed to go in. Yeah, that hole right there, that's where it goes in. And if these things are in backwards, the door won't fit properly and you won't be able to secure it, and you'll be able to tell. So just look at that imprinted letter, and R means right, L means left, and you just put it on the appropriate end. Gonna go ahead and put this control panel back on. And you may have noticed that I dropped a screw whenever I was taking this control panel off. So I have a little magnet, but it broke a while back, and I'm looking for it, find it now, and it's not long enough to reach all the way back there. So I usually use pliers like this, hold my magnet to get that screw that I dropped earlier, to put it back in. And yeah, magnets are a must-have if you're working on this stuff too, guys. You know it. If you work on these things, you're gonna drop a screw. It's gonna get to a place where it's hard to get, and those magnets are just a lifesaver. So those magnets, or those magnet cups. I used to have those magnet cups, and I used to use them, but I ended up losing them. I'm leaving them at customers' homes and things. I've replaced them many times, and then eventually I just quit buying them because I'd lose them. Like what I did with flashlights for a long time, until I got that chargeable one, which is pretty sweet. If you have seen that little flashlight, that fluorescent flashlight that I have, you can get at Home Depot. You can see it in some of my videos. That fluorescent light from Home Depot is pretty sweet. Anyways, back to the lid here. You just drop the lid onto those hinge pins, and you pretty much just wiggle its way all the way back down. And you'll know she's all the way in because you'll be able to see the holes that line up with the hinge there. And you just tighten those things up. One thing you don't want to do, guys, whenever you guys get these new hinges on, is move the door up and down. One thing that we see quite a bit on these is the door actually splits. When that door splits, it don't always close properly, and this thing won't run because that hinge is so powerful. It'll try and lift up that left or right hand side whenever that thing splits, and it'll not let the lid lock, so it won't run, because these things won't run with that lid being, they won't run unless the lid is locked. And when those things break, it just causes trouble. And I haven't seen one of those in a while, but those door glasses on these things, they're not cheap. You're probably looking at a couple $100 for that door glass there, and it's not bad if you do it yourself. But yeah, anyways, those hinges are in, guys. Not much to it on these. I mean, well, there's a little bit to it, more than one might think, but it's not that bad of a job as long as you got the right tools. Shouldn't take you long at all. I mean, I was probably there 30 minutes maybe doing it all. No trouble whatsoever. So if that's what you guys need and this has helped, I mean, give me a like, subscribe. If you got any questions either, guys, I do have an email now. So if I happen to not respond to a comment, if you guys leave a comment below, you guys can send me an email at beardedapplianceyt@gmail.com, and I'll try and get back with you. I started that earlier this week, so I mean, yeah. shoot me an email. I'll see what I can do for you. But that's it for this one. I appreciate y'all watching. Take care.